Ready to go? Alright everybody, welcome to SupaPixelGirl presents Women in Gaming. So to begin, it is my honor to introduce our panelists. They are all fabulous. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Kara. She is a game developer, and I love that we are going to have her perspective on this panel. I think that's really important. She directed Asago Academy. She's worked on 6 released games, incredible, and she's a professional actress, director, debt collector, and a professional secret apparently.
Once was a debt collector. I don't do that anymore. You can relax.
And also currently she is on Twitch and she streams role-based games. So welcome. Thanks for being on. Our next esteemed guest is Tama, gaming YouTube veteran. She is super extra about Pokemon. She's a Pokemon enthusiast. Yeah, girl. Over 500,000 subscribers on YouTube. Wow. Way to go, girl. Shucks. And as I said, she's been a YouTube veteran. She's been on YouTube for 12 years. So, there you go. And then we have Kinsey, avid game collector and a YouTuber. She's part of the Metal Jesus Rocks crew, which I think is super awesome. And she's also a beer connoisseur. She's taught me a lot. And she's a geek fashionista. I like her dress. It has controllers on it. It's very cute. So yay, Kinsey. And then I'm SupaPixelGirl. I'm the host of this panel. And I'm really into retro gaming. I'm a retro gaming YouTuber. That's where I got my start. But I really use it as a creative outlet, and I'm currently in grad school. I'm towards the end of my grad school to be a clinical psychologist, and particularly a child clinical psychologist. So that's why I think I need to have my slides, and I need it to feel a little professional. Yeah, and I'm also a cosplay noob, so my most recent cosplay was Princess Daisy. And I get kind of weird on my YouTube. Like my last YouTube video, I dressed up as Bob Ross and did Mario Paint. It was a lot of fun. All right, so those are our wonderful panelists. And thank you. Okay, so we wanted to start out this panel with something a little bit more lighthearted, because I know oftentimes when we talk about women in the community at large, but particularly in gaming, it can get a little bit dark. So we're going to start out with a warm-up and talk about something fun. Yeah! So, who's your favorite husbando waifu? Tama, let's hear it.
So, immediately I'm a wet blanket because I've never found a single Mugen character attractive. So I had to think about this, and I decided I would do a political marriage to Lara Croft. She is very wealthy. She has a really nice mansion and is almost never home. And based on her lifestyle, she's not likely to live past 30.
Next, it's my husbando, and I chose a husbando. So Leon Kennedy, and I wrote muscle for days, badassery for days, he's got that smolder for days, and he's a gentleman but with an edge, and he likes strong, independent women his age for days. And he's just real sexy, so that's my choice. All right, Kara.
So I really have been in love with, since I was 8 years old, Selphie Tillman from Final Fantasy VIII. And I know Final Fantasy VIII is not really the Final Fantasy that most people want to go up to bat for, but I just feel like, every single character in Final Fantasy VIII has a really big problem. They're all really, really, really messed up. And Selphie is the only one who has the exact same problem as everybody else, but decides to be happy about it. So that's why I love her.
Love that. And Kinsey.
Yeah, these girls know what I'm talking about. So my choice is Geralt from The Witcher. I mean, number one, look at him. Yeah. And he appreciates strong women, you know, all the women that he has in his life, Yennefer, Triss, like, they're all, like, they're in it to win it. Yeah. And the winning is usually go. But, he owns a vineyard, spoilers, if you haven't played Blood and Wine, but he owns a vineyard, and it's beautiful, and, you know, I could, like, live there, and that would be great. And Siri visits once in a while, and we could, like, hang out. This all sounds fantastic. And
Pretty well thought out.
yeah, I have thought about this since The Witcher 1. He's totally down for, like, roughhousing and, like, fun stuff like that. Sparring. He is down for sparring. And he's just such a badass. He was definitely my number one pick.
All right, awesome. So now I'm really interested to hear your guys' responses to some of these questions. So we're going to start with, what has been your experience as a female gamer or worker in the gaming community or online? So I'm just going to put this up there, and maybe I can start a little bit because I know we talked about this. So being a YouTuber, I get my share of comments. You'll see some of them are like, you know, show more cleavage. I think the one that gets under my skin the most is the one in the corner that says, more makeup, less clothes. So this is just kind of a sprinkling of things that I get. And I just want to point out, they're not always men. There's women too. There's one, if you're the girl that's dating insert YouTuber, or seeing them, just know it's because you have big tits and play his favorite retro games. And that's literally it. Yikes! So there's just all sorts of comments that we get on a daily basis, which can be kind of fun, but also kind of just really sad most of the time. And Kinsey, I know you've had some stories, girl.
Yeah. So one thing I've noticed as a woman on YouTube is that you're more likely to get comments about how you look versus what you say. You can be the smartest person about, you know, insert topic here, and it doesn't matter because they're just going to be like, well, you have big boobs. But I'm like, did you listen? Like, that was super interesting, you know? But that's just how it is, and it's so sad because, you know, we have so much to offer to this community, but some people just can't see past it. And, I mean, I've had my share of these kind of comments, and then if anyone remembers the GameCube debacle with Metal Jesus Rocks, if you guys watched that, because basically I tripped on a GameCube and it had an HDMI adapter that fried the system, and I got death threats. They're like, you don't even belong there, you're just a dumb girl who broke his GameCube, how dare you? And I'm just like, what? And I had people like being very specific with how they were gonna murder me because I broke a GameCube. And like, I often wonder, like the way a lot of those were phrased, it was all around the fact that I'm just a dumb girl. And I was like, you know, if a man did this, would it be, oh, the boys were just roughhousing and it just happened, oh, whoops? Like, I really wonder how that would have gone down if I was a man. Like, I think about that a lot. Like, just because of the way some of those comments were phrased, you know?
Absolutely.
And, yeah, it's just one of those things. I'm sure you guys have comments
I'm sure.
on that.
I know
I could go on forever.
Me too.
One of the things about developing games is that it shows up in a slightly different way. You don't tend to get a lot of people who you work with who are like, you're stupid and don't know anything about games. Except when you do, which, so sometimes I work on games as a contract worker and sometimes I'm in charge of the games myself and I hire employees to work for me. And there have been more than a few times where I hire somebody to, say, like, program some aspect of the game or something like that, who I instruct them to do something, and then they say, well, that's a good idea, but I really think my idea is better, so I'm going to do that instead. Which I feel like is not something that any of my like male coworkers I've ever heard them say anything remotely similar to that has happened to them. But I've had my understanding of how games work or what kind of game I want to make be called into question, and then it's just assumed that they know better. Not really for any reason. Like, they never give me a reason that they believe that they know better. They just go and do what they want without listening to me. So those people usually get fired. So don't be like that. But generally, it's just a lot of, you try to contribute your knowledge on a topic, and people will assume, oh, but you don't really know what you're talking about. You haven't been in the gaming industry that long, probably, or like your boyfriend got you into this.
Oh,
No.
yeah.
That kind of thing. But I don't know about your experiences.
So I've been around the block. I think the reason that this is a big problem, aside from the fact that these people are rude and hurtful and things like that, is that it discourages and sort of shuts people out from getting into games or trying to work in gaming or things like that, because they're met with so much hostility just for like existing in that space, and it's frustrating. And I know that when I first got started on YouTube, I used to step out. Like, it was really harmful to me because I would look for these really mean comments about me and about what I looked like and about my ideas and things like that, and I would just internalize them. And I had to really work on that to not do that anymore. So I go to an effort to not see stuff like this now, which a lot of people would like to call being thin-skinned. But I think as you keep going, you sort of learn to set boundaries with people. Like, if you're going to talk to me like that, the decision that I get to make is that I don't have to engage with it or read it or think about it. I don't owe you my energy, you know? So, and also something that I had to learn was just that, like, it's okay if people don't like you, because there are so many people out there with just different tasted people, and I can't be everyone's favorite person, or even someone they like. I'm just who I am. So, I don't know. I guess that's like the full circle journey that I've had, where it used to really bother me, and then I was kind of able to figure out how to deal with it in a way that wasn't super self-destructive.
Yeah, no, I've been there where it's like you have the urge to be like, oh, I'm gonna Google myself and I'm gonna go on I'm gonna go on a mean forum and see what everyone is saying, but it's totally self-destructive behavior, and it's like it's a learning experience to you say, you know what, no, I stop there. I'm not going to look at what they're saying, and that's
But I think
hard.
I think Tama brings up a really good point, that there is this kind of, like, the feedback that you get when you say, that's really hard for me to deal with, is people saying, well, then maybe you shouldn't be a personality at all, because you should just grow a thicker skin. And I don't think that that's, like,
It's not helpful.
it's not helpful to say.
helpful.
I also don't think that's realistic for the vast majority of people who are on a public platform, when you're getting just that much information about yourself. For most people, like, most people have thoughts in their head that aren't super positive about themselves all of the time. So imagine just all of those thoughts constantly getting, like, factual backup from random people that you don't even know. And because they're random, you just kind of give them more weight. Like, you don't think, like, oh, this is like some rando guy on the street that if I saw him, I'd be like, I don't like you at all. I'm gonna ignore your opinion. You always kind of imagine that the person who's talking to you is somebody, like, that you would respect. You just fill in the blanks and you're like, oh, I would probably like this person, but they think that I'm a liar, or they think I'm bad for any reason, or ugly, or whatever. And so you take their opinion way more seriously than you should.
Yep. One thing that's helped me is, well, as a psychologist, this gets a little like psychobabble, and I apologize, but something that really helps, it's called cognitive restructuring. So I recently got like a really long email that was like, you are so ugly, you can't, blah, 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 you shouldn't be doing it, and also you're an attention whore, you're this, you're that, just like every single button that could be pressed. And I just reminded myself of like a really cool badass dude like Batman. Like, do you see Batman like sitting down on his computer and like making an email to harass a woman? No, because Batman's being a badass ladies man helps anybody in here.
Just imagine Batman typing out the YouTube comments.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, ladies, the ones that do editing, I get this a lot. A ton of like comments that are like, "Who edited this for you?"
Oh, I get that. Yeah.
And none of my male colleagues get that. Not as much, but it's like, I edited it.
Yeah. Yeah. They like just assume that there's a man behind like everything.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Okay. So before we go on, I want to spill some tea. So, for people who don't know what that is, it's like truth. Like I'm gonna like have some truth.
Truth bomb.
Truth bomb. So when I first started YouTube, I was a lot smaller, and of course I'm not going to name any names, but a prominent YouTuber started talking with me, and was very flirty, and I thought he was a really cool dude. I was actually really interested in him, and then let's see how I can word this, because there's kids in the room, but he asked for a little bit more, and I said no. To which he unfollowed me from everything, unliked all of my photos.
That's so much effort.
That's so much effort. It's so much effort. It's crazy. But the weirdest thing, and I think for any young females in here who like want to make a name for themselves in YouTube and like explore the gaming community, do it. We need more of you, but just be prepared, because I wasn't prepared for that. And what I found out was that this specific YouTuber was making a list. They had a list. That's how he found me. It was a list of smaller YouTube girls that him and his friends would try to hit on and try to like get what they wanted from that. And we're smaller, and so maybe that they're they have a bigger following. They could, so I just.
Like preying on them, just like,
I totally feels like praying a little bit.
I mean, that definitely sounds like that's what it was.
That's exactly what
That
definitely
happens
what
to
that
me
is.
so much. And you guys, that wasn't the first time that's happened to me with a bigger YouTuber. So I think that's another thing as women in the gaming community that we have to be watchful for.
Gotta be careful. Yeah.
Right.
Not everyone's out to help, unfortunately, and they think that they can take advantage.
It's not all, like, bringing it back to the comments, and even what Kinsey was saying about getting death threats, it's not just that, like, oh, these people are being mean, it's like they literally try and make people feel unsafe.
Yeah.
And that's something that, like, you carry around with you, and you get, like, really paranoid, and you feel like you can't trust people, and that is really difficult when you have to work.
Yeah,
or, like,
absolutely.
if you're just in the gaming community and not in any kind of industry, even just playing with them. It gets really difficult to know who's trying to be your friend and who's trying to like get information they shouldn't have and things like that. Yeah.
The last time I got death threats, I was on the way to a convention when I checked my messages, and I was like, God, why did I even look? Well, I mean, of course I didn't think that's what it was going to be, but then I get to a convention, and I'm just like, all right, who's gonna do it? I'm here. It was so, like, I felt so unsafe.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I say I'm going to a convention, I will get messages like, if you come there, I'll find you and I'll rape you. Like, those are just, like, things, and it's just, like, for me now, it's just, like, they're just trying to be dumbass.
But it's hard, because you can't, like, sometimes you're like, okay, is this the one that's real? You know what I mean?
No.
Like, it's so hard.
Well, and because then you feel like if something did happen, people would blame you. Like,
Yeah.
oh, well, they told you, so why weren't you prepared?
Absolutely.
Yeah, like, you know how many people have told me that? Like, I'm still here. God damn it.
So that was my little spill the tea. So we're gonna move on. So my next question is, some have referred to the gaming community as a boys club. Do you agree? Why or why not?
I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. Things are, I think, changing a little bit in terms of like kids who play games. When I was a kid, the entire reason that I got my own console was because I would go over to my friend's house, it's like the guy, and they would be playing Spyro or Pokemon on their Game Boy, and I'd say, hey, can I play? And they'd be like, no, you're a girl, you're not allowed. And I was like, oh, well, I'm gonna get my own then. So I did. And I think, hopefully, that that's less of a thing now than it used to be. But I think that used to be a pretty common experience, and it just sort of, it escalates from there because obviously that's not fun behavior to put up with, but when you start working in the industry, then it becomes like a serious problem and a roadblock, because obviously I cannot prove that I've lost any opportunities because I'm female. That's not something that I can like say with 100% certainty, but I definitely get the feeling that I have. I can think of some examples, but I feel like I get in trouble for saying them, so.
We already spilled tea. So
Yeah.
you don't need to. I already did it.
Well, I think it's definitely a boys' club. It's definitely perceived as a boys' club. It's kind of hard because most of us who are here, we're here because we're gamers. And so obviously we know tons of people who love games, and a lot of them are probably women. But when you step back and you talk to like normal people like my parents, or like I was a couple of years ago, I was still in college, and it was around the time that Gamergate was happening, and I would have my college professors pull me aside and be like, hey, I know you're working on games, and I heard that it's such an unsafe environment for women. Are you sure you still want to do this? Like, are you sure you want this to be your profession? It sounds like you're gonna be in trouble later on. And so, it's hard because we see each other, and we know that it's not just a boys' club. But it feels to most people who aren't already in the thick of it, like it's definitely a boys' club. Like it's definitely not welcome to women anymore. Or not that it ever was. And I remember it has gotten a lot better, because I remember back when I was like 14, I would try to go to GameStop and like buy a Harvest Moon game, and the guy behind the counter would judge me because it was a game with cartoon cows on it. He was like, oh,
That's such a good game.
you don't play no Call of Duty, huh? You're just like, and I was like, dude, you're like 21 and I'm 14. You should not be like judging me right now. But it's something that now, that attitude that kind of women are the exception to games manifests in really weird ways.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, where, like, in some cases women can get fetishized if they're into games, and just kind of like, which is understandable. You meet a girl, she's got your same hobby, of course you'd be super interested in her. The problem is when, like, she goes into that space and then there's, like, 10 people who are, like, on her. And she's like, okay, I just came to have a good time and now I feel pretty creeped out. It manifests in very strange ways, including following you into the development room where people just don't take you as seriously or don't think that you know as much as they do.
It kind of reminds me a little bit of the ninja situation, and I don't know how familiar you guys are with that, but in short, I don't have all the details, but essentially Ninja, who is the most prominent streamer on Twitch, he made the decision to not stream with women, and his decision why was that he wanted to protect his marriage and protect rumors that if he was playing with a female, that people would start to think that they were dating or they were together. And so we had a lot of people that were like, well, he's protecting his family, and he's protecting his wife. And then on the other side, people were saying, it kind of goes back to that boys club, right? Where it's, well, I mean, if you think about any other profession, in Hollywood, Brad Pitt is gonna like have to work with females, and I think in another entertainment, Twitch is entertainment, it's gaming entertainment, and there is both, and females.
Surprise!
Right, and one of my biggest things was that it was very heteronormative. It wasn't taking into account, so Ninja's not gonna play with females, but what about a homosexual male? Is that out of the question too? Like, it just seems a little odd, but I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. And I did put 2 tweets that have different, thoughts on it. And I know it's controversial on either side, and we're just gonna share our thoughts, but that doesn't necessarily have to be your thoughts. But I just think it's relevant to us in gaming, and obviously to be able to Stream with Ninja, this most prominent Twitch person, would be an incredible opportunity. And, you know, to cut off women, it's just, I think it makes us feel kind of like, aw.
Yeah, I think it's dropping like
Yeah.
a part of the community that is really underrepresented. And putting it like that to like protecting, you know, family and marriage, that's just over-sexualizing a woman. Like, just because she's in the room doesn't mean, oh God, I have to have sex with her. Like, that's not how that works. Like, it's like this.
It doesn't.
Well, flirting is a choice.
Yeah,
Like, I think his reasoning was that he was worried people would
assume.
Yeah, assume that they were flirting, or that there would be accidental flirtation that would happen, which, I mean, sure, people can misinterpret things all the time, but like, you still have the choice to go to your audience and be like, stop that.
Yeah, it's just kind of the same idea of like, women shouldn't wear yoga pants. Because like, then I can see so much of her and like, I just can't control myself. Like, it's such like a, I don't know.
That's so weird.
It's so weird. Yeah.
I grew up in like a Catholic high school, and like we weren't allowed to wear leggings and stuff. And
A boy might see your butt outline.
They might see your butt. And I don't think it's okay for you to have a butt.
Yeah, but it kind of touches on what Tama was saying, where she said that you can't completely prove that there's any opportunities that you've lost because you're a woman, but just by being a woman, you've lost the opportunity to stream with Ninja, which it's his decision to make, okay, but it's not necessarily women's fault that the culture of gaming is that if you appear on camera next to a male, people will assume that you're dating.
For a long time, people asked me if Metal Jesus was my husband. And I'm like, his wife is in the videos! Like,
I guess on that note, it is interesting that he has outright stated that he won't have girls on his channel, because a lot of people, I'm sure, have made the same decision and would never actually just say that, right?
Right.
Because it's a super weird thing to say.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm just curious what you ladies think about this tweet over here. It says, it's by Remix. Women are holding themselves back more than anything. Shut up and go make shit happen. That's how you change minds. You want Ninja's opportunities? You want to be the biggest female in esports? Get as good as he is, and no one will care what gender you are.
I'll believe that.
Oh, boy.
I'll believe that as soon as people stop coming into my streams calling me a man.
But there's also like a trend, okay, so this is getting more into the entertainment side of things, but there's a trend of like who gets big, right? And it's mostly white dudes, and I think it's because in general, the audience wants to see people who represent them, and they're majority male, right? So it's difficult because there's nothing I think that a lot of female streamers do all that differently than Ninja. I don't watch Ninja, so I don't know. But like, you know, it doesn't seem like he's doing anything that like anyone else couldn't do. It's just that he is who he is, and he had the opportunities that he had, and was able to grow his audience to that size. And
Well, and the way that entertainment works nowadays is that you need a lot of help from other people who are your same size or slightly bigger than you to grow. That's the main way that people do things. And so there's a lot of smaller YouTubers who are women or people of color who, they're out there, they're doing their thing, they're producing really good content, but the algorithm doesn't necessarily favor really good content. Like, that's not necessarily how you actually get successful, even though we all really wish that is how it would work. In like an ideal world, you would work hard and get rewarded. But it's turned into this kind of vicious cycle where, because nobody was really there at the right time to get big in the beginning, so now there's a lot of these smaller people of color and women who are like really trying to make it, but because they're so small, larger people don't want to collaborate with them because they don't have as much of an audience to bring to the table. And so it just becomes this vicious circle where they can't grow and nobody wants to work with them because they're not growing, and it just really kind of keeps them down. So I feel like in some ways it's up to people who already have an audience to find people who are worthy of being elevated, whose content is already really good, and just put them in front of people. Be like, look at some cool stuff you can check out. That sounds like a good time.
And here's some incentive for doing so there's a sort of thing that people know in the YouTube industry, which is that girls are better at getting sponsors for some reason. So if you are a male YouTuber and you want to increase your female viewership, you should put people who represent that viewership in your videos, and you'll get more of those female views, which are better for your ad dollars.
It's profitable in the end.
Yeah. Something to consider.
All right. So, another question that I have for you ladies is what makes the difference between a good and bad representation for a female character in a game?
So this is a kind of a paraphrasing a question that I got from Connor, somebody who watches my streams, which was really about like when is the time that you can pick up a game and like be like, I can really get behind this female character, and when is the time that you will like look at a game and be like, I don't even want to touch that because I know that that wasn't made for me. And like I think that there's a lot of games that kind of want to have it both ways, I guess I'll say, where they're clearly designed for everyone, and yet they're still only mostly exclusively geared towards like straight male players. And that like you have, not to call out Nintendo, but let's like take Dragalia Lost, which is their most recent mobile game that came out. It's definitely intended for everyone. It's a really cool game, very polished, but it does the thing where like all of the girl characters are like, hey, this is my character art, and all of the like guy characters are like, I'm John. And it's that kind of thing that feels really disingenuous because, I mean, I don't feel super represented by the female characters who have like really big boobs and like butts and like that's what they are. That's how they're represented to me. I also think that we could use more women of color representation in games, and we could use more LGBT women represented in games. And I think a good, like, I think one of the like more interesting questions that is usually brought up is, what about Bayonetta? Like, is Bayonetta positive female representation, or is she
like a power fantasy, you know, and is she empowering?
Or is she like objectifying, like overly sexualizing women?
Right.
And I've thought about this for a long time because there's really no easy answer here. I feel like she's doing some good things, she's doing some bad things. But it comes down to me, if there had been like more women working on that game, I think I would feel more comfortable with Bayonetta. But knowing that it was mostly a bunch of guys designing her to be super sexual kind of makes it feel disingenuous to me, where instead of it's like women being like, yay, sexuality, it's like men being like, yeah, women, be proud of your sexuality. And it feels a little weird to me.
At the same time, regardless of intent, she does appeal to women.
Yeah.
She totally appealed. I love her.
I know,
think
she's really
great that
cool.
She like, you know, she is sexual, but it's for her, and she's badass and she's strong.
Yep.
but-
No man's telling her what to do.
Yeah,
she's
she's
making
just
all
like,
the
I
decisions.
want to be sexy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be sexy.
But I'm sorry.
No, you
So the
go
problem
ahead.
isn't just that like Bayonetta herself is sexy, it's that that's kind of all we have. So if we had more like just in general women, then we would have more room for just lots of different kinds of female characters. And I think that actually has sort of started happening. Obviously we have room to improve in like minorities and like LGBT, but like in 2011, I think it was really rare to find a game with a female playable character at all. And now it's pretty common, I think. And things like Bayonetta don't bother me as much, because I don't personally. But like, it doesn't bother me as much because there are characters that appeal to me and that I feel represent like, what I would like to be in a game more.
I think games like Horizon are an excellent example, because that game, not only was it beautiful and the controls were smooth, it was fun to play, but Aloy was a fantastic main character. Like, she wasn't over-sexualized, she was on a mission. She even said in there that, like, they were, at one point in the game, they're, like, talking about, like, she's gonna get together with this guy, and she's like, I don't got time for that! Like, she's like, I don't even want a relationship. She's like, I just gotta save the world! And I'm like, yeah, girl! You know what's up. Like, she was absolutely the best. Like, I just loved her so much.
I kind of miss, well, I'm a retro retro girl, and my favorite ladies in games are like Terra and Celis from Final Fantasy VI, Rydia, and it's like the little pixelated, you know, they're so cute, but it's like then you can like put your imagination on them, and it's just like I feel like back in the day, there wasn't so much time put on how they looked because they were just pixel characters, and then you know you could like focus more on their strengths and how they progress through the story. And I feel like as games just get more and more modern, and it's like we gotta make her look this way, and like it's like I kind of miss when they were just cute little pixels.
Not as much boob physics back then.
They were just pointy.
Yeah.
Oh, well, except for
Which I
respect.
Second and Setsu 3 had those dancing girls. They had boob physics. That guy knows what I'm talking about.
So if you could like boil it down, or try at least to boil it down to one thing, what do you think makes good representation for a character?
Somebody who's badass and strong, but also has a vulnerable side.
So basically, a well-written character.
You got me there. And jiggle physics.
Or on the flip side, a character that is completely self-insert, which a lot of games do, but like, bringing it back to Nintendo, I'm gonna get in so much trouble for talking about Nintendo. But like, one of the problems that I have with Legend of Zelda is that it's definitely like a self-insert character, Link. His name is Link because he's your link to the game, right? But he is only a blonde dude, like he can only be a dude. And it doesn't make any sense if he's not a character to not have that option. So that's what bothers me.
Yeah.
Okay. For sake of time, we're going to move on to our next question. What are your thoughts on people who use terms like Twitch thoughts or boob tubers? So for those who may not know what that means, I mean, this is a new word that popped up, I think, like maybe last year. And I was like, why am I getting comments that says that? It means that hoe over there. Or boob tubers, you know, YouTubers, you get it. I feel like, I don't know about you girls, but I feel like I've been hearing that term a lot. And so, essentially, maybe I'll explain a little bit more, like a female on Twitch or a female on YouTube who may be expressing their sexuality. They want to feel a little sexy. You know, they get a lot of hate. It's kind of like, oh, you're just there to make money and you don't really care about games. And I just kind of want to hear what your guys' thoughts are on that, because it's I think this is a controversial topic. I talked to some of my guy friends who can't stand, you know, that whole vibe. So I think we should talk about it.
I think it's kind of a weird thought when, like, it kind of goes along the, like, fake gamer girl thing. And I'm like, okay, so if I just wanted to have my boobs out on Twitch, I don't even need to play a video game. There are other aspects for that, you know, like, that you could probably make more money, you know, and you don't even have to play games if you don't like games. So, like, that whole idea to me is, like, why put in the effort to play games if you don't like games? It doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Yeah.
But if it is, you know, someone who, you know, wants to do that, if they want to express their creativity and their sexuality that way, and that's a place that they feel comfortable, why not? If you don't like it, don't watch it.
Yeah.
You know?
And there's plenty of streamers. I think of Vine Sauce, you know, he doesn't even show his face, and he gets a ton of viewers.
Yeah.
It's just, I think people think, oh, they're taking away my views, like these girls with their boobs out, they're taking my views, you know, and it's like,
if it's someone
a completely different audience.
Yeah, if it's someone who wants to watch a girl with, like, cleavage play video games, he might not be watching that one guy's stream. Like, it's not the same audience.
Yeah, and also, I don't know, I'm like, they're not hurting anyone. Like, they're just, let them, if they want to, if that's how they feel powerful. Some women feel powerful covering up, and that's great. And you know what? Some women feel powerful showing what they got. And if you're not hurting anybody, then, in my opinion, girl, do you. Or guy, do you. What do you guys think?
I think a lot of the, like, anger that comes at boob tubers, sorry to use the term,
I know the terms.
women who have boobs and show them while they play games, a lot of the anger that comes at them is just kind of misdirected. And they're attacking these women because I guess they feel like these women are being somehow predatory by like using their natural good looks to aid them in their entertainment ventures. Okay, like I guess being hot is a problem. It is like predatory, but like putting yourself on camera, you're really like taking things away from other people there. But I think one of the things that gets leveled at these women constantly is this thought that like they're objectifying themselves by having their boobs prominently displayed, by like having their sexuality at the forefront of what they're creating. And I think that kind of comes down to a misunderstanding of what objectification is and how it works. Because objectification is like the mental process of reducing another human being to an object. Like, so this person is now no longer human, they're just a body. And that's not something that someone can make you do to them. That's something that you will do in your head to that person. The onus is entirely on you to remember that other people are human and not just props.
Yeah.
So I think that that's a lot of the confusion, is that it's like, well, you're making me objectify you, and it's like, that's not how that works.
And you can sort of class this as like very, I don't know, like a very light form of sex work in a way. Like, suppose they were doing it specifically because they have, like, they want to make money off of their sexuality. That's fine. But like, that exists anyway. So isn't it better that there is a safe avenue to do that, where the lady is totally in control of like how much gets shown or how much she wants to, you know, like what she wants to do? Because there actually are not very many avenues that exist for safe sex work in like America at all, or in
Preach it, girl.
other parts of the world. So it's like, I feel like we should be happy that if these women want to do that, that they can do so in a safe way that they have total control over, and that the money isn't going to some dude's pocket, you know.
Absolutely.
Can I also just say that I hate the term thot?
It's like the new word in the comment section.
It's definitely, I think it's kind of become meme-ified, where people have like detached it from, like, it was, I think, in my understanding, it was originally referring to like Instagram girls who, like, in some mythology were like going after your man or something very strange. Like, that hoe over there is going after Reginald. Like, it's definitely just like a gendered insult that I don't think it's like funny as a joke, but I've seen it tossed around as a joke, and every time I'm like, okay, if that's what's funny to you, then it's funny to you, I guess, but I don't know, that just makes me think you don't like women.
Yeah. Okay, so we have a little bit of time left, and I know all of us really wanted to share a female in the gaming industry, kind of give them a shout out. So I'll go ahead and start first and say that, I have a few, this is hard. Lady Pelvic is really awesome. She's a YouTuber. Kinsey, I like and Tama, obviously. But I would say, just to be clear, if you had to check one girl out, I would say Lady Pelvic. She works really hard on her videos. She edits really well. She's just an awesome human being. So yeah, Lady Pelvic on YouTube. That would be my suggestion. What about you, Kinsey?
I think my favorite female YouTuber is 100% Pushing Up Roses.
Oh, I love Sarah.
I love her so much.
She's great.
Oh, we should say, I just want to say really quick, and for other women that are trying to get into the gaming community, Kinsey, Sarah, Pushing Up Roses, and I and Pam all have a Twitter group, and we kind of just like, we'll share comments that we get, and we like support each other through it. So if you are in this community, try to find a group of women that you guys can like.
It's been
have
so
support.
helpful.
Oh, it's been like literally, I'm like, I don't know if I could have done it without that support group. So
It's been amazing.
It's been absolutely amazing.
I would recommend Commander Holly, she's great. But also, as a game developer, there's an interesting game that is free that you can try. It's a visual novel called Cute Demon Crashers, and it's rated R. It's definitely, like, be careful there. But it's an interesting concept where a bunch of women got together and said, what if we had a game that interactively taught people what enthusiastic consent was? And so it's available for free on the internet called Cute Demon Crashers. I highly recommend it. I mean, it's also like, it's very pretty rated R content. So if you're into that.
Just really quick, I got my recommendations in them. Okay, so if you are interested and want to find more good content to watch on YouTube, check out Bob Dunga. She, I don't know when she got started, but she makes really great, high-quality stuff, and I enjoy it, so check her out.
She's dope.